This is a video all about the benefits of mindfulness meditation, and it's a nice little journey actually. A description, yes, but also kind of a practical guide, if you will, to the benefits of mindfulness. It talks about what is mindfulness and answers the question, what is mindfulness, answers the question, what is meditation, and also answers the question, how can meditation help you? Why can it be so helpful for us? So this is really all of my knowledge and experience, my over 7 years of knowledge and experience as a Reiki master, as a teacher, and also someone who practices and studies and learns about meditation and mindfulness. And my practice and my studies and my learning has taken me all the way back to 11th century India and Tibet. And it's actually taken me physically in this lifetime all the way over to Thailand to actually practice some of the principles and ancient practices really of Vipassana meditation. So I'm going to share with you today, yes, it's a description and an explanation of meditation, of mindfulness and of mindfulness meditation and of the benefits thereof. But it really, I want you to sit back and to relax and to enjoy and to really just allow this information to seep in. You know, you do meditate already every day, whether you know it or not, and I'll be explaining that to you in this video as well. So I hope that you enjoy this little journey to the center of mindfulness meditation. So what is mindfulness? Well, mindfulness really is the practice of being aware of what you are experiencing physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. So when I say spiritually, what I mean by that is our instincts, our knowings, our deeper emotional selves, our psychic selves, if you will. And it's interesting because we have to listen to what we can hear out in the world, the noises, literally the noises, so the hum of the computer in my case right now, or the sound of birds, or the breeze in the wind, or whatever it is that you can hear in the moment. And we listen for those things, and we look with our eyes, and if we can, and we see a bird just flew past the window and Tiny's asleep by my feet and the light shade in the room. So, we look at what we can look at also, and we, feel what we can feel. So the weight of my body and the contact that my body makes to the sofa or the mattress or the floor, what my hands are touching. So we notice those things in mindfulness. And we also notice how we feel emotionally. So I notice right now that I feel calm and at peace just because I'm talking to you. But all I'm doing is noticing how I feel right now. I feel calm. I feel relaxed. Some of us may be feeling other things, but we just notice when we are being mindful. We just notice whatever it is we are feeling emotionally, and then we notice what our minds are doing, where our minds are going, what our minds are thinking. Are there any sentences that are ringing out, any images that are flashing in the any strain in the mind? We just notice all those things with mindfulness. But then there's the other things that we hear, and there's the other things that we may see, and there's the other things that we may feel in a moment. And when we practice mindfulness, over time we start to see other things. We start to hear other things in addition to the birds and the hum of the laptop or the breathing of the dog as he sleeps and he snores. And with mindfulness, we still just notice. So if the image of that person flashes in your mind while I'm speaking to you, or a memory flashes into the mind, or a song plays in my ears as I'm speaking to you, all I have to do is notice it. That's it. I don't have to interpret what that sound may be, or interpret what that word in my mind is, or interpret what that heaviness is in my chest. I don't have to interpret it. In mindfulness, all I have to do is notice it. That's all I have to do. It's in meditation that we can take this process one step further. Meditation is something different from mindfulness, and it's something that we use in conjunction with mindfulness all the time, and it's something that you probably do all the time without even maybe knowing that you are doing it. So let me tell you what meditation actually is, what it actually means. So in my previous life as an English teacher for 10 years, I love words, and I love to understand the etymology of words and where words come from, the meaning of words. And meditation, obviously, is one that I have investigated. You would be not surprised to know. And I mean, I have many, many dictionaries. I love dictionaries. I love words. And that does not stop just because now I teach mindfulness or meditation or Reiki or tarot. Meditation is actually from the Latin term meditare, and it actually means to reflect, to consider, to think over. So let me tell you that again. Meditation actually means to reflect, to consider, and to think over. So when I said right at the start of the video, I said to you, I guarantee you meditate, and you probably don't even realize you do it. So when we meditate, we reflect, we consider, we think over. We reflect on our experiences. We reflect on what we feel or what we see or what we experience. We consider what that may mean. We think over what we did and how it affected them. And when I tell you that that's what meditation is, now do you understand potentially why it is quite a difficult thing for us to do? Not in the process of it, because we are hopefully all of us capable of being reflective and considering what we see and what we experience and how we feel about our experiences. We're all able to do that process. But do we all choose to do that process? Would we all choose to do that process? Well, we're in a unique situation in 2020, in May 2020, as I record this video, as many of us are on lockdown or have been on lockdown because of the global pandemic that is COVID-19. And so many of us have actually had to engage with what we are seeing and what we are feeling and what we are hearing and what we are noticing and how we are responding. And many of us have been engaged, therefore, in the sort of passive, if you will, the passive almost process of mindfulness. But also we've been engaged in the very real and active process of meditation. So you have been meditating quite freely maybe not happily, but you have been meditating over this time period. And it's something that you do. It's something that we do every single day, isn't it? Now, the only difference maybe between how I meditate, so how I reflect, consider, think over, and how people who don't understand or realize that they're meditating, the only difference between me and you, or me and them, or us and them, if you will, is a really important word. And that word is compassion. Well, you could say another important word is context. It's the context of compassion that mindfulness and that meditation provides us with. So, as I said, in mindfulness, we just notice what comes into our head. We just notice what is in our view, in our physical view, or in our mind's eye. We just notice what things come to our mind and what we hear or how we feel. We just notice that. So that's compassionate in mindfulness. In meditation, we exercise compassion because what we understand by reflecting, by considering, by thinking over, which, as I said, goes in conjunction with mindfulness, what we understand by the process of meditation is that in order to learn, in order to grow, in order to expand, we must know, first of all. We must see, first of all. We must hear, first of all. And then we must engage with what we see and what we hear without judgment. I feel angry does not mean that I'm an angry person. And that's the difference of compassion. With compassion, we just accept. We just accept that emotion is necessary, that feeling is necessary, that is what I need to know in this moment so that I can reflect on it. So why do I feel angry? So why am I worried? So you will hear in my voice and in the words that I'm speaking to you right now that the words that I'm talking about, compassion and anger and worry and honesty and truthfulness, they are words that are mentioned in the Reiki precepts. And it says in the Reiki precepts, do not anger, do not worry. Be humble, be honest in your dealings with people, and be compassionate. So if you are not being compassionate, Ruth, or if you are being angry, Ruth, then you are not following the precepts. Well, this is where the mindfulness comes into it. The mindfulness, I'm about to sneeze, I feel. Excuse me. The mindfulness, comes into it because we just notice it. So if you are, what the precepts help us to do mindfully is to notice when we are angry, is to notice when we are worried, is to notice when we are not being humble, is to notice when we are not able to be honest, is to notice when we are not able to show compassion to ourselves or to other people. And then the next part is the meditation, where we say and we ask, we reflect, we consider, we think over, we meditate. Still using that compassion, that framework of the necessity of this, of what I'm experiencing right now. Still using that and applying that framework of compassion, we reflect on, why am I feeling angry? We reflect on, how is that anger manifesting itself in my physical body, in my mind, in the things that I'm saying, in the things that I'm feeling, in the things that I'm hearing. We consider, where could this anger come from? Where could this worry stem from? We consider, where could this boastfulness or this where could this stem from? And we think over, how else has this manifested in my life, in my experiences, in my relationships, in my previous responses, in my previous interactions? So I think about the process in a way of mindfulness as being passive, where we just notice what we feel. We just notice what we see. We just notice where our attention is drawn. Whereas my meditation is the reflection, is the active reflection, is the active engagement, is the active consideration of these experiences, these feelings, these reactions, these worries, these angers, this lack of compassion for ourselves or for other people. And so mindfulness meditation is a combination, obviously, of those two practices, the passive, if you will, noticing of my experiences and of my responses, and the active engagement with those responses, with those experiences. And so mindfulness meditation, hopefully you can understand why it's a tool. It's a practice, it's a process of living, of engaging, of noticing, of existing in a way where we are not judgmental either of myself or of other people. We simply notice how we respond, because that is where the power really lies for us to transform how we feel, to transform how we respond into a space where it's always truthful, where it's always measured, where it's always humble, and where, most importantly, it's always compassionate and honest. So I really wanted to address, why meditation helps so much, why it helped me so much, and, why it can help you. Even if you've not fully got underway with your practice, if you will, I really want to explain why it can. I'm someone who suffered with PTSD for 10 years, undiagnosed PTSD for 10 years. So you can imagine what my head was like. Or maybe you can't, maybe you're one of the lucky ones who's never really had anxiety or depression or as I said, PTSD. I would be, I'd love to live in your head for a day, but honestly, I don't really think we're that different. I mean, that's one thing that mindfulness and meditation does teach you, really. It teaches you that, the brain responds to trauma. That's what it teaches you. And, the point of mindfulness and meditation for me was really to understand how my brain and how my body was responding to this trauma. So, if you've never suffered from anything like that, I'll just explain quickly. So one of the things that I ultimately realized, once I'd started meditation, one of the things that I realized is that because I had anxiety, because I had PTSD, I was never in the moment. My mind was always thinking about every potential possibility, every potential outcome, every potential thing that could happen, that could go wrong, every area of danger that I could ever encounter in any daily activity in life. So you can imagine, how it would be to catch a bus, or how it would be to go to work, or how it would be to stand in a room, or how it would be to be in a corridor, or how it would be to go out on a night out with my friends. Your mind, you get out, you step out of the taxi, and within 3 seconds you have gone through all of those eventualities of, okay, someone might walk past too close to me and I might react like this and they might react like that, and then this might happen, then that might happen, and it's almost as if, for me it was anyway, when you have anxiety, when I had anxiety and I had PTSD, it was almost as if I didn't hear that that's what my brain was doing. I didn't hear that I was thinking about all these potential things. I mean, it seemed like a very natural thing for me to do. I thought that that's how my brain just worked. I thought that my brain just worked this way. And actually, meditation taught me that it didn't. Mindfulness and meditation taught me that my brain didn't just work in that way. My brain had continually over time, I'd done this. I had a very significant trauma in my life, and I felt extremely unsafe. I felt extremely at risk. And so the psyche does what the psyche does best. It protects you, and it protected me. So in order for me to be able to go to work every day, and in order for me to be able to have a social life, and in order for me to be able to have a relationship, I had to function somehow. And that's like many people with anxiety and many people with depression. There are many people out there like that suffering, and they have to live their lives. They can't just stay at home. And so the psyche, the subconscious self kicks in. And the subconscious self allows you to make these lists and play out all these eventualities of all these things that could potentially happen to you and all the things that could go wrong. And because if you list them in your head, if you've gone through all the scenarios, then you feel calmer, because you feel like you've prepared for that scenario, because your mind has thought it through. Now, to some people who've never really had an acute, anxiety or PTSD problem, that might be quite hard for you to understand. But I'll say it in the way that, I was, as I said, I was a teacher for 10 years, an English teacher for 10 years, and teachers listening, but anyone who's got a job that's stressful, before you can sleep at night, you have to have a list. You go through the list of the things that you have to do in the morning. So you have to, you have to walk the dog. That's the best part of the day for me when I was a teacher. No, I'm joking. So you've got to do this, and then you've got to mark those books. You've got to do that lesson plan. You've got to do this. You've got to respond to that email, and you've got to, whatever your job is, you'll go through those list of things in your head, and then once you've gone through that list in your head, then you're like, okay, now I can sleep. That's anxiety. Your doctor probably wouldn't prescribe you, diagnose you with anxiety, because we all experience anxiety. But that's one of the ways that we experience anxiety that many people will experience. So I realized through mindfulness, through meditation, through practicing mindfulness and meditation, that I was always somewhere else. I was always in the future. I was always planning and thinking, and my subconscious mind was always doing that. So the first thing that mindfulness and meditation, or practicing those things, helped me to do, helped me to slow down those brain processes, that learned behaviour that I'd reinforced over 10 years. I didn't know that I had PTSD for 10 years, as I said, so I just thought that this is how my brain worked. So it was a relief to realise that no, it wasn't just how my brain works, and I can actually, you can actually turn this around. You can actually learn new ways. You can actually reteach your brain, and it can actually, through this reflection, through this level of awareness, through this level of responding and noticing those responses and reflecting on those responses. So for me, it really taught me that. And so it taught me to be present. It taught me to be in the moment. It taught me so instead of getting out the taxi or off the bus or out the car, and because at this point I've been meditating every single day. This went on for 6 months, and sometimes it was 4 hours a day, sometimes it was 12 hours a day. Obviously, I was in CBT and therapy as well for 6 of those weeks, and seeing my doctor in between as well. So that was very good and very helpful for me. So the whole thing went hand in hand, but in the process of meditation, it slowed my brain down, if you will. So I was able to hear and notice that my brain was doing this. Like, oh my God, my brain does this. I didn't know that my brain did this. I didn't know that I was thinking about all these things that could possibly go wrong. Oh my gosh. It's like, one of those moments where you're like, oh my God, this is what, because the brain goes like that, and it affects your body, it affects your breathing. And I was able to connect those two as well. Like, oh my gosh, this is why I'm so tense as well. My body's really tense. It's because my brain's doing this. So, the first thing it does for me, the first reason why it helped me and why it can help you as well, is it helps to slow down those processes. It did for me. And as I said, I was also going to a therapist, so I was able to meditate during the week or meditate on the days, and then go and say to her, oh my gosh, Ramsha. She was called Ramsha, obviously. I was like, oh my gosh, Ramsha, this is what I've realised this week. And I'd tell her, and we'd talk about it, and we'd air it all. And it just helped to all the scrambling in the brain that you feel when you have anxiety, when you have PTSD, all that scrambling, it just helped to untangle everything. For me, mindfulness and meditation, it just helped to untangle it. Now, as we go further into the process, where you are then, so you're out on your own, you don't have your therapist anymore, you're out on your own, if you will. But for me, what it gave me was a framework, so that if I was angry, if I was anxious, if I was worried, if I was stressed, if I was nervous, if I was upset, if I was not being compassionate toward myself, I could notice it. I could be, oh my gosh, I'm not being nice to myself in my head. I just said in my head, I'm being a silly person or whatever. And so that was the next thing I started to do. I started to notice how I spoke to myself, what type of things I told myself in my head. And again, some of those were automatic. They seemed like automatic thoughts because I was so used to just saying that, oh, you're stupid, or don't be, whatever, I can't even, to be honest, I can't remember what I used to say to myself because it's been so long since I've insulted myself. Because when you hear that you treat yourself that way, that was the next thing I did. I'd started to notice, oh my God, I'm saying this about myself, or I'm dreading this. And then I would say, stop. And I would stop myself if I would, mid-thought, I would say, no, I'm not stupid, or no, I'm not lazy, or no, I'm not, whatever the word was, or whatever, as I said, I don't remember now. So it helps you to really just be aware, in a nutshell. Mindfulness and meditation helps you to be aware of how you speak to yourself, of what you notice, of what you say, of how you treat yourself, of how you respond in certain situations, regardless of what's coming out of your mouth when you're talking to other people. How do you feel? And is that difficult? It can be. It's not the process. As I said, you meditate every single day. You reflect, consider, and think over every single day. Or you maybe don't, actually. And if you don't, then that's just an indication as to how difficult it actually is, in a way. Because it's not, as I said, we can all do it. We all hopefully have the capacity to do these things, to think and to consider and to look with our eyes and to notice our minds. We all have the capacity, hopefully, to do that. So, and sometimes we do it. Sometimes we may do that. And sometimes we may avoid doing that. I'll just leave you with that last and most important point, really, for me, about meditation, about mindfulness, about peace of mind, about healing, about growth, about strength. The most important part of all of it, for me, is that word compassion. Compassion for me means acceptance without judgment. Acceptance without judgment. That this thought is just in my mind. It doesn't mean that you are a bad person. It doesn't mean that you are a this or that or the other. So whatever the thought, even if it's I won't come up with one which is terrible, but one that we may deem or other people may deem as terrible or taboo or awful. Your mind is presenting you with that thought, with that image. So however awful or tragic or distasteful or horrible or abhorrent even you may judge that image to be, all you have to do in mindfulness is just notice that that's where your mind is. And then again, with compassion, we can reflect on that thought. You can say, wow, I just had that thought that I just wished, for example, I just wished this person harm. I just wished that person, something bad would happen to this person. Wow. then we consider what that means. Well, what do I mean by that? You know, why do I wish him or her, or why would I wish them harm? You know, where does it come from? You know, what am I angry at? You know, why did that upset me so much? You know, because when we realize what I've realized is that it doesn't really matter what anyone else says. The only thing really is the response. The only truth is how I respond to that. So they could call me any name under the sun. They could insult me. They could insult my mother. They could do, you know, they could say whatever. Do I get offended? Am I hurt? Am I angered? Why am I angered? Why am I hurt? Why am I triggered? Why? That's the only thing that I can look at that can help me to grow, that can help me to heal. It doesn't, you know, people are going to say stuff or do stuff, or, you know, that's how you don't know what's going to happen. So the best place to be is in the moment. The best place to be is right here, because that's the safest place to be. That's the safest place, that's the place where you've got the most strength to do anything about it. The most power to exercise on the situation if you're here now, as opposed to thinking about the whys and wherefores and what might be and how they might react and how this is all going to come tumbling down around your ears. If I am here, then I can know how I'm feeling here. If I am here, then I can try to look at why I've responded in that way. I can try to look at why it makes me feel sad or upset or angry that they said that. Why it makes me want to punish myself because they said that. Why it makes me want to be angry at myself because I said that. For example, I don't know. You know, the truth of mindfulness and meditation is about compassion. It's about having enough compassion for yourself to not be judgmental, to be accepting of what you experience, to notice how you respond, and to reflect on that. Because it's that that's going to help you to heal, to grow, to release the anger. If you don't look at the anger, if you don't realize that you're angry, if you don't notice that it's every single time you see that person, or every single time you hear that, or every single time somebody says something like that, you're getting angry, people aren't going to stop saying stuff like that, whatever that stuff might be. The thing that can change is how you respond to it. You know, there's always going to be dark nights. So, you know, you can be anxious every single time there's a dark night, or you can try to understand why a dark night makes you feel anxious. You know, and I think that just that focus really that mindfulness gives us, that focus really that meditation gives us is what in itself, you know, by practicing it, that's what helps us to learn. That's what helps us to strengthen. That's what helps us to grow. So my darlings, I hope you like this little video about mindfulness and about meditation and about the benefits of it and about why it can help you. I will see you all again very soon on Curious to Raw for brand new everything, just everything and anything that I feel inspired to create for you. All right, my lovelies, take care. Bye.